Welcome to this new series on my new book, Branch Tomorrow. I'm very grateful that the team have allowed me to spend some time talking about the new book. My last banking book, Bank 4.0, was released just on Christmas 2018, early 2019, and it's done very well. As thankfully, has remained active in the community as a book. But it's time for the next book. We're working on this new book today, and we're going to be speaking to the contributing authors from all around the world. We have contributing authors from Europe, obviously from the US, from China, from Latin America, and so forth that have participated in this. So it is really a global look at what's been happening to branch banking over the last decade or so. The big news is that it's probably something that you don't hear a lot about in the banking or even the fintech space right now, but branches have been in decline for over a decade now. We hit peak branch in 2015. This is measured by looking at the largest economies in the world in terms of their branch activity. So the G20, the Eurozone, and so forth. We have seen a decline in branching there that started in the 2015 era. Now, you don't hear a lot about this. Central banks don't publicize this. I'm not aware of any other publication that has highlighted peak branch as yet. But we delve into in Branch Tomorrow why this has been happening. And a core element of this is really that we have reshaped the way banks and financial services organizations, particularly fintechs, acquire customers these days through digital. And this has changed the economics of branching significantly. And, it's pretty easy to see when you can see Nubank acquires customers at $5 to $7, Revolut, reportedly sort of €20 per customer, WeBank in China for 75 cents per customer at scale. And then you've got, banks like JP Morgan Chase who are acquiring customers at $350 or $450 per customer to get them in the branch to acquire. And that is the disparity that's happening in the financial services system in terms of growth today. So this is reshaping financial service markets globally. And some of the bigger figures and numbers from the new book that will shock listeners is that if you compare the top 20 retail fintechs today versus the top 20 retail banks in the world, it's not even close. Fintechs surpassed the top 20 banks many, many years ago. And today, the top 20 fintechs command around 4 billion customers, whereas the top 20 retail banks around 2.7 billion retail customers. And the growth has been very clear. Over the last 5 years, fintechs have dominated growth. In fact, in the top fastest growing FIs in the world, the top 50 fastest growing financial institutions in the world, there's not a single incumbent bank. These spaces are all taken by next generation digital players. So this is reshaping financial markets. And as a result, it's retooling the industry in respect to how customers acquired and how engagement is done. And this is really the topic behind Branch Tomorrow, the new book. It's out in September. The release is going to be staggered around the globe, so in different parts of the world. It's published with Wiley in the United States and with Times, Marshall, and other publishers offshore outside of the US. We're also working on the next book, Bank 5.0, so I'll tell you more about that later. But first, what we'd like to do is take you through this series of interviews with the co-authors, each with their specialties in the different markets, so we can talk about what's happening in the world of branch banking around the world and how that's changed over the last decade.
Hi guys, I am Brett King, the author of Branch Tomorrow. I'm here with my co-author, Bruno Diniz, who's coming to us, I presume, live from Sao Paulo. Is that where you are, Bruno?
Exactly. I'm here right now. It's a pleasure to talk to you again, my friend.
Yeah, well, last time we talked, I was in your studio, and now you're in my virtual studio. So it's good to see you again, bro. The book is coming out next month, so we want to give people a bit of exposure on this in terms of what we're talking about. Of course, the book Branch Tomorrow delves into a lot of detail in terms of how branching has changed around the world. Peak branch in 2015 globally. But tell me about, when did the decline in branches really start in Brazil?
Fantastic. Yeah. And the cool thing is, every time a friend of mine asks about the book or something like that, I just said it's something like the rise and fall of the branch bank, the branch of the bank. So it's it's typically the case. Yeah. And we have like I think there is a timeline here to explore, Brett. First of all, I believe that 2013 was a very pivotal moment because of regulatory changes in Brazil. So that allowed for many payment institutions, that brought new propositions, just like the case for Nubank. Nubank was born out of this regulatory change in 2013, and as the book also states, I believe that 2015 was the peak of this movement. In many parts of the world, that's also the case for Brazil. But the precedent of that, in terms of possibility of creation of new financial institutions, 100% digital, like the case of Nubank, was 2013, and 15 we start to see the whole thing decline. So that was the.
I think this is really critical to understand, because there is a clear correlation here, which is the rise of the digital banks. What they essentially did is change the economics of branch. They changed the economics of banking, showing the gulf between digital acquisition as a cost strategy and branch acquisition as a strategy. I was doing an event in Austin today, and I was talking about the fact that JP Morgan Chase, with their branches, they're paying $400 to $450 per person to acquire a branch. And if we take Nubank, which is now the largest bank outside of Asia, their acquisition costs reportedly are somewhere in the range of $5 to $7 per customer.
Exactly.
So the economics of branching just don't work at scale anymore. If you want to scale up, as Nubank has, then the only way you can really do it is digital. So tell me about some of the latest numbers for Nubank, because you're there on the ground, and they just had their quarterly results. But where are they at in terms of total number of customers now, their penetration in Brazil? Just give us some of the landscape.
Sure, I think Nubank is a good case here, because they basically were like the first players to really shake the ground here. So as I mentioned, they started in 2013. Right now, the updated numbers is that they have 123 million customers in the Latin America. So that's an update, and that's always increasing. So I believe the number of that was released in the book was a little lower than that, but that's ever changing. We cannot stop it.
We can't keep you can't keep updating the book, right? But
and the published. Yeah, we got to close it and publish anyways, but that's the case. And in terms of net profit, so this quarter it was released that it was around nearly to 700 million USD. So it was 695.5 millions, and the consensus of the analysts was like $630 $1 million. So
they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and then we saw a spike in the stocks and everything else. And it's funny to think about, when you look back, that the skepticals, the whole banking community were very skeptical in terms of, okay, but are these guys going to have any profitability along the way? And I think that we just come full circle on that thesis, from this shift in terms of the need to have like a bank branches, chains of branches to enter the Brazilian market, for example. And 2015, something that is mentioned in the book as well, that was when HSBC here in Brazil, they left the retail space and they sold their operations to Bradesco. And that was exactly at the time, 2015 and all of that. And for another player to enter here up until 2010 was, you need to acquire a bank that also has its branch chains, and that was not the case, and they changed that. They have high profitability. Nubank's also, and other players like Mercado Libre with their branch, which is Mercado Pago. They have also going beyond banking, with a little slight aspect of super app on that. And that's something that all the other major players are trying to also pursue, and have more screen time with their clients, not only for transactions, but also for other things that they might need in their daily life. So
So Nubank is now, as I understand, the second most valuable by market cap, second most valuable listed company in Brazil, just behind Petrobras. And Itaú is third, but you're talking about earning results. When you listen to the earning calls of Itaú these days, and I haven't listened to the last one, but I listened to one earlier in the year, and the questions at the end of the earnings call all are about how they're going to deal with Nubank today.
oh,
It's interesting because you don't see Itaú is now fielding like questions about how they're going to deal with Bradesco or BBVA or HSBC anymore. They're now dealing with what are you going to do about the Nubank problem? Nubank is now twice the size of Itaú in terms of their customer base. So I mean, how is Nubank reshaping expectations in the market in terms of financial performance?
yeah, the thing is, they reshaped the way the whole operations and the way that the banks thinks about their economics. You're right when you just mentioned the aspect of the cost, how like branches elevate the costs. But we're talking about a different type of play here. We're talking about a linear operation. We're talking about the different tech, and Itaú, which I think in terms of incumbents is one of the incumbents that really made the change, and they are advanced in terms of how we, as an incumbent, we are getting leaner somehow to cope with these different times that we have. And I think they're doing good. I think some other banks might be slower than what Itaú is doing. But it's just like that. If you aim to reinvent, and you say that all the time, the whole banking experience of the whole banking operation nowadays, you should start from a different point. The problem is when you already have like all the legacy systems and all of that, and you have to make this transition. I know it's hard for some of the players. We saw many other experiences here, like major banks launching their own digital division. We saw that in Europe as well, in many parts of the world. But the reality is all digital now. It's all digital. It's just like you cannot escape from that. It's just like how they can cope with the changing in tech, or maybe creating something new, just for in order to be leaner and to use a tech that is gonna bring in some kind of moat here. But it's all about that. The whole modus operandi changes when you put all those things in variables into play. So
This is really the key. Is when I get asked, and I'm sure you get asked as well when you're doing events around the world. I often get asked the question by traditional bankers, who's the best bank in the world that we should copy? Because they want to sort of, like, show me a bank that is doing the transformation right, and that is sort of a poster child of this. So, you could turn to J.P. Morgan Chase, spending $18 billion a year on digital transformation right now. You could turn to Itaú in Brazil, but the reality is neither of those are good examples of the state you need to get to. You want to be modeling yourself on Nubank or on WeBank or on Revolut or on Alipay as the end game in terms of where you want to get to. Becoming a JP Morgan Chase where they are today, or an Itaú where they are today, is still not going to make you fully digital ready, because that's the reality right now. the most operationally cash efficient banks in the world, those who are growing the fastest, are those that acquire at digital scale. And that's what Nubank has really demonstrated. Yes, their growth is starting to slow a little bit right now, but let's face it, they are the largest bank outside of Asia. So, I mean, unless they move to the States or they expand to Asia, and I know they're looking at both of those options right now. Like, how much bigger do you think Nubank could possibly get?
Well, I think when we look at Latin America, Nubank really understood the playbook of operating in Latin America. I think we have some similarities. It's different culturally, for sure, but we have some similarities. And I think have been able to explore that. And the thing is, we need to think also that we have different environments in terms of regulation as well, which can be an obstacle sometimes for players like Nubank to thrive. But for sure, I think that there's a lot of, when you think also in terms of regions in which we still have lots of things to do in terms of inclusion, we see lots of other countries in Latin America. We see Africa as well. But I believe the low-hanging fruit for Nubank here is looking at Latin America. Argentina, for example, is another major example. But Argentina, we have also Ualá, which is a local player, and we have also Mercado Pago, which is a division of Mercado Libre, which is the largest e-commerce group in Latam, and they have been they had excelling in delivering solutions for the banking community, for banking customers in Brazil. In Argentina, they are very strong in Argentina. So I really think the Nubank will continue to grow, looking at those opportunities that I think many other companies in the world are looking at, like Latin America, and think, okay, there's opportunity here, but they are already in the ground and they have created this playbook on how to navigate places like Colombia, like Mexico, and Brazil for sure, where I think they dominate this.
So one of the, I want to talk about picks in a little bit, but before we get to that, let's stay in the fintech space for the minute, because we do have obviously Nubank is the 800-pound gorilla, but there are other strong fintech plays, and this is one of the key messages from the book is that this is not about a future state or what's going to happen in the future. Fintech is already dominating in most of the markets around the world. Certainly in Asia, certainly in the Americas, in Europe, Revolut is now, 30% larger than HSBC globally. So we see this trend. WeBank is 430 million customers. There's only two banks in China that's larger than from a retail base. Nubank is there, but what are the other fintechs in Brazil that you're excited about, or across Latin America, that are really making some traction?
Cool. I think that there are lots of B2B players as well, which I think that we should consider when you think about players that operate in spaces like retail spaces like Nubank. I really believe that things like infrastructures like Pix, and I know we're going to discuss a little bit about it in a bit, but it also helped making a level playing field in terms of connecting the whole banking infrastructure for payments and making it easier, because prior to that it was hard for you as a new player, newcomer, to deliver like a banking solution or a bank account, a digital bank account, because you are like segregated from the whole systems that the incumbents used for transferring money, and it would be expensive, like transferring money through TED, which is like a very efficient, if it was efficient in terms of speed for transferring in Brazil, but you used to pay like $3 for transferring. $3 is just like, sometimes it's all the money that I need to transfer. And after we solve that and become interoperable, the whole play in terms of payments, make easier for new players to come into the ground and said, okay, you can have an account here, because it's going to be easier for you to send money to any other account in the country. So that's cool. And that's one of the reasons why right now there are some studies by Google, for example, that Brazilians had like 5 to 6 accounts per person in Brazil, because it's very easy for you to open up a new account.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can have some benefits from account to account. But responding to your question, I think there's a lot of space for play in the B2B space. I think there are lots of banking as a service companies in Brazil, like Cellcoin, which is a big banking as a service solution. We have Iniciador, which is a PISP as a service, is a payment institution that they provide basically payment initiation as a service for other players, and I think that this space is going to continue thriving. The whole retail space is harder to crack into, but we see like very good examples like Nubank and some accounts of other players that already had their like retailer space. They are big in the retailer space, and they have their own account with this whole embedded finance movement that we see in different parts in Brazil. It's also
Some of the wallets are getting some traction too, like Pay and
Exactly.
others. Like not purely obviously. I think they're based in Chile, right?
No, Rappi is Colombia.
No, Colombia, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have some traction there. There are some, as you said, some differences in each of the markets. But let's focus a little bit on Pix. Pix, most famously, is the fastest growing payments network in the world. In fact, now we're looking at rolling this out in other markets. But what's the level of acceptance and adoption of Pix, and how is that maturing?
Well, it's over 85% of the population in terms of added population uses Pix, so it's massive. And the thing is, there is also a roadmap to increase other functionalities on Pix, like offline Pix that can settle the operations after the payment is done. Which is cool, is going to be introduced I think in a year or so. We also have the Pix, like a buy now pay later function embedded into Pix. So the central bank, they standardizes the whole experience. Some of the banks already offered some type of ways of do a buy now pay later, then paying installments through Pix, and now there's a standard for that. That's just the variable recurring payments, which is also here, or the automatic Pix, which is also meant for subscriptions and things like that. So we have a serious competitor to the credit cards schemes in Brazil through Pix. And the thing is, it's already in the daily life of people. So, and you have to bear in mind as well that a credit card is a credit instrument. So you need to have some sort of a credit scoring. So in many cases, people start using their wallets and having the benefits of Pix and receiving through Pix and paying for their daily lives with Pix. And then all those other add-ons are put on top of Pix as it progresses. So I believe it's a powerful instrument we have here. And
I'd be really interested in, and you can sort of tell me if there's experimentation with this or whatever now, but the obvious application of these real-time payments rails is for agentic payments right now. We're obviously thinking about AI-based payments capability. We're going to need real-time capability to do agentic AI-based payments. We of course have got Visa and MasterCard and PayPal in the mix now, but also, what a lot of people probably don't realize is that Pix, because it's modern architecture, will also allow for stablecoin type payments. What you're describing in terms of, some of these functions, the buy now, pay later and things like that. There really is a role for agentic AI. Is any of that being worked on right now?
Yeah, we're thinking about the foundational blocks for all this change to happen. You know, you just mentioned, I think Pix started as, okay, an advanced interoperable payments infrastructure for the whole country. It fostered competition. It's fostering financial inclusion as well. And as it's powerful and it was very well conceived, we're gonna have all the other features that I just described it here. And I really believe that for agentic payments and all of that, I think Pix is going to be ready. There's some updates on even on Drax here in Brazil, which is our CBDC, that's going to be perhaps relying on Pix infrastructure rather than blockchain technology that were recently announced. So as I mentioned, we have something powerful here. I think the hardest thing to do is make it interoperable and cheap. And in the US, for example, there are lots of fragmentation on that, and there's no consensus on trying to navigating that just like we did here. But once we establish that, the other things on top of that is a very feasible, evolutionary
Yeah, I mean,
on that.
I think one of the really interesting sort of key messages here is that we used to think of developing markets like Brazil, which is not really fair to call Brazil a developing market. It's one of the largest. It's going to be one of the largest economies in the world. It is one of the largest economies in the world. It's going to be in the top five over the next couple of decades. But we would often think of U.S. Payments rails and U.S. banking system as more advanced, but the U.S. doesn't have anywhere near this type of coverage. The ability to sort of put stable coins into play or the CBDC on a wholesale basis, that's something we're going to see the BRICS nations obviously, that they have a sort of strategic advantage here. China with their yuan. Drax, as you've spoken about in Brazil. But let's look at the key message behind the book. As a result of these changes that are happening, if you're sitting in the boardroom of a bank like Bradesco or BBVA or one of the local players today, what is the sort of conversation about digital from a customer engagement and acquisition perspective and growth perspective, and what are banks thinking about doing with their branches and their traditional products like credit cards, which are, as you've pointed out, being compromised now by the ability to get contextual credit through the Pix ecosystem.
Yeah, I believe, Brad, that all the incumbents are having this discussion in their agenda right now. And you mentioned the case of Bradesco here. And Bradesco is a bank that just recently, I think 1.5 years ago, they announced a major revamp. They've been like they hired McKinsey and all of those players and trying to reinvent the bank because they understood, and the market was seeing that perhaps the bank was not innovating in the pace that other competitors, comparing incumbents here, were not. So, and I believe some players tested the different versions of that to create a new division entirely that got a new tech. I think some of them are exploring this possibility as well, trying to reinvent from the core some of their operations. But I also believe that some of the institutions, the incumbents, can also take advantage on the newer infrastructures. Just like I mentioned, the case of if an incumbent can really unlock opportunities and create and derive new products on top of an infrastructure, just like Pix, just like open finance that we have here with payment initiation and trying to take something out of it. I think that might be in the agenda of the most of the players right now. It changed a lot. I think in the past it's just like a case of trying to conquering and having and embarking all those different legacy systems once you acquire a new institution and all of that. Now it's all about not only the search of efficiency, but sometimes it's just like you need to deconstruct the whole thing that you constructed. in order to create something new. And we have already the building blocks, which are available not only for Itaú or Bradesco, but for any other newcomer. So that's the craziest thing, because despite capital, I think, which the incumbents heavily have, it's more accessible for some other players to try to defy the position that they once had. So it's a cool new word, and the whole case of Nubank, the whole case of Nubank is just like it comes full circle from everything that I just mentioned for you. So
Well, this
I
is
think it's
great.
cool.
So let me ask you. I mean, obviously you've written books before, but this is our first collaboration where you're a co-author with me on the book branch tomorrow. What are you most excited about in respect to the book, and in terms of what you think it will do for the community?
Amazing. I think that first of all, you managed to get a stellar selection of friends here and authors, to try to have different views of this phenomena in different parts of the world, and I think it was a very good job on that. And I think it's a book that in which the decision makers, everyone that is living finance now, can really understand with data, with examples, how this transformation is happening, and it's ongoing, and something need to be they need to do something around that, if they're not doing yet seven around that. So it's a very, I think the multi perspective in this book is fantastic. And finally, we have like data on a phenomenon that is right here, and that's changing the way the finance operates and the whole economics of this game. So
We're seeing it. We're seeing it happen around the world in real time. That's muito legal.
bom, muito bom.
Bom.
Fantastic.
Obrigado, meu amigo. Okay, so thank you very much, Bruno. Thanks for your support on the book. I really appreciate that, and appreciate your insights, bringing this to bringing your insights on the Latin American market to the book, and I'm sure the readers are going to benefit from it. And look forward to seeing you next time in Brazil, and hopefully we can go and catch up with David Valles down at Nubank and interview him jointly on a podcast.
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Sounds good. All right. Well, ciao, ciao. And thank you again, friend.
Bye bye. See ya.